The notification pings while I'm rinsing rice. It's the soft, bright chime my phone uses when it thinks I want to remember something. I wipe my hands on a dish towel that still smells like lemon oil. Your friend was tagged in a new album, the screen says. My daughter's smiling face fills the glass like a small sun. I tap once, as if the heat won't burn. The album is called Forever at the Conservatory. There she is, in a dress the color of morning cream. Her bouquet is peonies, those short-lived clouds I taught her to cut on a slant. Rain freckles the patio stones. Even the weather looks invited. I scroll, and the sound in my kitchen thins to a high wire. My name is nowhere. Not in the captions, not in the comments, not in the lines of faces framed by greenery and rented gold chairs. A paragraph down, someone writes, "So intimate. Just the right people." I stop breathing the way you do when a doctor searches your face for bad news. The rice water froths over my knuckles. A text bubble pops from my sister. "Did you see?" I can't find words that are big enough for this small screen. I open the event page. It has the pastel banners and polite fonts of celebration. Attendance list. 24 names I know by weather only. Summer co-workers, high school friends who once ate my lasagna. Under family, there is a small gray circle with my initial. Next to it, the word declined. I press it like it might change. A timestamp reveals itself. 3 weeks ago, 7:12 a.m. The note line reads, "Regrets, traveling that weekend." It's my email address listed beneath, tidy and correct. Someone taught the party that I said no. Someone put words in my throat and clicked send. The rice spits and hisses where it kisses the burner. I turn the flame low and wipe up as if neatness can contain this. I check my email. A sent message sits there like a stranger in my coat. "Thank you for including me, dear. I'll be out of town." No signature. No Joan. I have never written "dear" to my own child like I was addressing a radio host. The rain begins in earnest against the window, slow taps that know my secret. I sit at the little table by the window where the pothos has finally learned to drape. The chair complains at my weight, a tired animal. The photos keep coming. A toast where her father, my ex-husband, lifts a glass, eyes wet in a way they weren't when we signed. My daughter leans into him, angles her face just so. That same face used to ask for the purple cup, not the blue, and we'd laugh when the purple was clearly blue. She is 26 now and sharp in all the ways I once admired. When she was 13, I crocheted a shawl for her school play, tugging yarn through late-night news until the pattern learned my fingers. The shawl is in one of the pictures around another woman's shoulders, the new mother-in-law, pinned with a brooch I've never seen. The caption reads, "Wearing something borrowed." I put the phone down on its face. The house, at least, is faithful. It holds my breath and gives me back air. I am 48 and the mother of 5, 2 left, 3 flown. I have kept this house upright through market dips and fevers, through boxed dinners and careful envelopes. There is a ledger in my head no one has bothered to ask about. Deposit for her prom dress, $260. Emergency dentist when she broke a molar on a caramel at the fair, $415. First security deposit when she moved in with the fiancé, then boyfriend again, then fiancé. $950 plus a handshake to the landlord. Not gifts, I told myself, just ropes you throw from the shore. On my phone, a cake appears. It's smooth and white with pressed flowers on the sides, whisper thin and edible. 3 layers. The caption is, "We did a thing." The comments scissor between hearts and exclamation marks. Someone types, "Mom's crying everywhere." Someone else writes, "Only special people last night. Perfect." My fingers hover like birds that can't decide which current to ride. I try her number. It rings twice, cuts to voicemail. The one she recorded when she was 19 and still loved the sound of her own name. "Hey you, it's me. I just saw." Silence is a wet coat. I wear it anyway. "I love you," I add, because that is a true thing that does not depend on permission. I hang up before the machine can thank me. The kettle clicks off, though I don't remember turning it on. I pour water over the tea bag and watch the brown bloom. The cup says, "World's okayest mom," a joke from my youngest, who has her father's humor and my eyes. I am not okay, not even for a world this big. On the table, a paper lies where I left it this morning. The receipt for the bakery where I ordered croissants for my team just because it was raining. $28.36. Numbers are so honest. They say, "Here is what you gave. Here is where it went." When my daughter first told me she was engaged again, we stood in this kitchen. She wore a thrifted coat and hope. She took my hands, then let them go so she could use both to describe a venue with strings of lights like poured stars. I said I would help. I pulled a small notebook from the drawer where I keep warranties and stamps. We made a list, and I drew little boxes beside each line so we could check them off. Dress, flowers, suit, photographer. I put a deposit down at a boutique where the floor was velvet, and the attendants talked in the measured hush of libraries. $500 to hold a dress she had circled in a magazine. Later, when they needed a little extra for the venue, I sent $300 through an app with a winking logo. It is the smallness that stings, not the money. Exactly, though I count like a person who has moved money between envelopes in a grocery parking lot. It is the way my own address was used to erase me. A click that turned me into a woman who declined love. My sister texts again. Call me. Are you okay? I write, fine, because being the eldest makes honesty a luxury. Then slow, no. She calls anyway. I'm here, she says, no preface. The sound of her kitchen is different. Harder surfaces, a clock that takes bigger bites of time. I got the notification, I say. Me too, she whispers, as if she could hide the words from the photos already in the world. Did you? She begins, then stops. She knows I did not. We have shared enough winters to trust the shape of one another's storms. Maybe it was a mistake, she offers, but with no conviction. She used my email, I say, and the sentence sits between us like something shivering. I'm coming over, she says. No, I say, I want to be alone with it for a minute. All right, she answers. I'll be on the other end of the phone like a light left on. When we hang up, I open the drawer with warranties and stamps again. The notebook is there with the boxes. Some of them are checked in my careful square ticks. Dress, deposit sent. Floral consult, scheduled. Guest list, started. Under that, I had written in smaller print, talk about expectations. We never checked that one. A drop of tea has fallen on the page and bloomed into a soft, brown flower. Outside, the rain grows confident. It threads the gutters and hushes the neighbor's radio. I think of the first time she lied to me. She was 7, and the lie was a chocolate mouth she swore was from vitamins. I had laughed then and washed her face with a warm cloth and made a note to keep sweets higher. This is not a chocolate mouth. This is a door I built, being closed from the other side. My inbox shows one more thing, an automated reply from the venue, Maple Row Conservatory, thanking me for communicating clearly. We completely understand, it says. We look forward to celebrating with the couple and close family. Close. The word does its small violence and moves on. I stand and rinse the rice until the water runs clear. I salt it and bring it to a soft boil the way my mother taught me. Patience first, then heat. Grief makes lists in my head. Bread, milk, return the library book with the cracked spine, learn how to change the password on everything. I take the shawl down from the closet, the one in the photos, and lay it over the back of the chair. It smells faintly of lavender drawer sheets and years. Threads slip where they've been held tight too long. My phone lights again. This time it is a message from an unknown number. We wanted it small. No drama. Hope you understand. No drama is the wish you make when you've already created a stage. I do not reply. Instead, I write a sentence at the top of the notebook page. I am not an RSVP. I close the book and put it back. The kettle, empty now, clicks as it cools. a little metal heart remembering how. Tomorrow, I will find out who logged into what and when. Tonight, I will let the rain speak so I don't have to. And as the last photo loads, my daughter's head tipped against a new shoulder, I let myself feel the ache and the fact of it. Because before the storm and after it, I am still the shore. I am still here. I am still her mother. And in the morning, I will begin to ask the kind of questions that make secrets uncomfortable. The morning comes heavy and plain. I wake before the alarm as if my body fears being surprised again. The rain has softened to a steady stitch along the gutters. I make coffee I don't really want and hold the warm cup like a small animal. The shawl sits where I left it, draped like a story that wants to be heard. I open my laptop. The login screen looks the same as it always has, which feels like betrayal in miniature. In the corner, a faint clock spins, patient and indifferent. I go to my email settings. Security. Recent activity. 3 entries catch at me like thorns on a sweater. Unusual sign-in. It says, 1 from 3 weeks ago. IP address I don't recognize. Location, across town, 2 blocks from a bakery I used to take her to after piano. Quote, I don't own an iPad. My stomach tightens, an old instinct from years of stretching dollars, stretching patience, stretching myself. The logs don't lie. They speak in numbers and times, a language no one can argue with. Quote, a pale list unfurls. Quote, 1 small door closed. Under filters and forwarding, there is more. A forwarding rule, neat, efficient. Quote, my throat goes cold. This is not a stray click. This is a plan. I hover over the trash can icon, then stop. I take a screenshot. I save it to a folder I name Receipts, because honesty should have a drawer too. I delete the rule. I change my password with hands that shake. I add 2-factor, something I resisted because it felt like admitting the world could be cruel. I sit very still when the code arrives, like I might scare it away. The kettle sighs behind me. I forgot to turn it off. I do what I always do when I can't trust my own weather. I make a list. Venue. Dress deposit. Photographer. Possible witnesses. Not friends, not family. Witnesses. People who saw what they were told to see. Under venue, I write a number pulled from the confirmation emails that the forwarding rule missed. I dial. A woman answers. My name is Joan, I say, then add my last name because I want her to hear all of me. She says, instinct, tugging her toward script. I let the word hang and then fall. Quote, there is a professional pause, a rustle of keys. Quote, I watch the rain make small rivers on the window. I'm held. Tinny instrumental music replaces the rain. When she returns, her voice is a step softer. Quote, of course, she says, because that is the only thing a person can say when asked for truth in a room full of petals. She reads, single quote, quote, the words pile up like suitcases at a door I can't get through. Single quote quote. Will handled Joan, my own name bent into a problem to solve. I ask, because I am a woman who believes in the dignity of completion. Single quote quote. I close my eyes. A table becomes an island. A chair becomes a border. Thank you, I say, and mean it. Her voice softens again, human slipping past the concierge. I'm sorry, she says, low in the way strangers can afford to be kind. I hang up and put the phone face down on the table like it is capable of blushing. The kettle clicks again, a nervous tick. I pour hot water over tea I forgot to throw away and watch it darken past reason. The list stares back. Dress deposit, it says. I find the boutique on my stack of receipts, the velvet floor place, the hush. I dial. A different kind of polite answers. I give my name. Oh, yes, the woman says, memory leveling her tone. Quote, yes, I say, surprised at the clean truth of it. We tried to reach you, she says. Quote, canceled, I repeat. By email, she says, quote, of course it was, quote, applied to a different gown, she says, different name on the account, quote, efficient, I think, like removing a forwarding rule, I ask. Company policy, she says. Pause, quote, please, I say, and get ready to listen to myself betray me. She reads, we've changed direction. Please move funds to, she says the new name like a tiny apology. Single quote quote, flexibility. I picture a gymnast in a silent room bending past breaking. Thank you, I say, because I don't know what else to do but be a woman in a world where thank yous are currency. When I hang up, the house presses in like a hand on my shoulder. It means to comfort. It reminds me of a night when she was 10 and fevered, when I made a boat of towels and carried her from bed to bathtub to couch. She called me Cap'n and saluted with a saltine. I've been steering, I think. Someone decided the ship didn't need me in port. My phone lights up. A message turns over like a fish in a shallow bucket. It's from her. 3 texts in a row. Quote, simple, I think, is a word people use when they don't want to watch their own hands. I type and erase. Type and erase. Quote, no question mark, just the fact, waiting. A dot appears, disappears, appears. Dad said it was easier, she writes, quote, we just did it. The way people say of a haircut, a choice, a leap over the small fence you weren't supposed to cross. Easier than what, I write. No dot appears. Time becomes a shape. I stare at the shawl. I walk to it and run a finger under one loose loop. Feel the give and pull, the way threads remember being held. Quote, what is evidence, exactly? As a record of the way something soft can be used as a shield against the person who made it. My sister texts. On my way, she writes, and I don't stop her this time. She arrives with a grocery bag in her elbow and a face that says she's been practicing being useful all morning. She doesn't go for the big hug, which would hurt. She sets down the bag, eggs, cream, bread, as if breakfast were a strategy. Tell me, she says, and pulls out a pen. We sit at the table like we have sat at tables our whole lives. She writes as I speak. She writes the words, "We'll handle Joan," and underlines them until the paper dents. She draws arrows from device log to forwarding rule to boutique. She leaves space between each line as if to let the air pass around what's true so it doesn't smother us. When I stop, the rain has gone. No, I say, because I am learning the difference between reaching and chasing. She nods. She knows the language of my nose. "What do you want?" she asks, simple like holding a hand out over a curb. "I want to be treated like a person," I say. The sentence lands and stays. We eat eggs because that's what human bodies do when they are hurt and still have to keep going. She washes the dishes, sleeves pushed back. I watch the clean things stack and think, order is not the same as peace. I open the notebook with the boxes. Quote, "Another, ask for shawl back, then cross it out. It's not about the shawl. It is and it isn't." My phone buzzes. A new message, not from her. Quote, "This time, a voice memo. I stare at the wet blue arrow like it might bite me. I press play. Her father's voice, measured, familiar. Joan," he says, "we kept it small for a reason. You have a way of making things heavier." Quote, a pause. "I handled the logistics," he adds, as if logistics were a synonym for love. Quote, another pause. "You're still her mother," he says, which is like saying, "The ocean is wet after draining a bay." The memo ends. My sister meets my eyes. "Save it," she says. I do. Receipts. I label it with the date. Quote, I run my hand over the notebook page until the paper warms. I make one more box at the bottom of the list. Quote, "Not because I want to explode anything, because I want to know the size of the room I'm choosing to stand in. The sky lightens a degree, like someone cracked the door between rooms. I rinse my cup. I dry it. I put it away. I am a woman making small order in a world that just tried to erase her. It's almost noon when I put on my coat. I tie the belt in a double knot. My sister watches me and knows better than to ask where I'm going. Quote, I shake my head. I have to knock on a door first, I tell her, voice steady. Quote, the hallway smells like someone else's dinner. Garlic and butter trailing from a door that isn't mine. I'm standing in front of 3B with rain freckles drying on my coat. My finger hovers, and then I knock before courage can change its mind. A peephole darkens. The chain lifts. He opens the door with the face he saves for complicated deliveries. Joan, he says, my name turned into a package he didn't order. I need 10 minutes, I answer. He looks over my shoulder as if trouble can be tall. Come in, he says, standing aside like courtesy is a force field. The condo has that bachelor neatness I remember from when we were new. Surfaces wiped, a plant that is alive mostly by accident. The rain has followed me up 11 floors and whispers at the balcony glass. He gestures toward a bar stool at a high countertop. I take the chair. He rubs the back of his neck, an old habit that meant I'm about to be practical. When we were 24 and broke and needed to trade dreams for milk. Did you use my email? I ask. The words are a smooth stone I place on the counter between us. He inhales like a diver measuring oxygen. It was just easier, he says, already in the script. For who? I ask. His eyes go to the apples, as if one might answer for him. For her, he says finally. Quote, explain how lying in my voice is for me. I say, not sharp, not soft. He shifts. We wanted it simple, he says. Quote, I have never made a scene, I say. He tilts his head. He catalogs every Thanksgiving, every late night, every time my voice got tight in a room where the thermostat was set to him. I wanted to avoid emotion, he says, choosing the word like it's a wire he needs pliers for. You mean mine, I say. He doesn't disagree. I had your password from taxes, he adds, reaching for competence the way men reach for hammers. You were at my house, I remind him. Quote, help is a word with teeth when you look at it too long. I changed my password, I say. Good, he says, like a coach commending basic form. The boutique transferred the deposit, I add. He looks momentarily impressed, like he forgot crime comes with receipts. It wasn't a crime, he says, reading my face too fluently. It was unauthorized access, I reply. Single quote, what? He flinches at fraud. Come on, he says. Quote, you made it legal when you wrote my name where it didn't belong, I say. Quote, he spreads his hands, quote, on my capacity to love without breaking furniture, I say. Quote, he leans back. He looks tired in the way men who orchestrate feel after the symphony ends. Everyone was happy, he says, which is the most efficient lie. I have a voicemail of you saying that. I answer, single quote, quote. He runs his tongue along his teeth like memory got stuck there. He reaches for an apple and doesn't take it. The rain taps louder. A nun with knuckles. Do you want me to apologize? He says, I want you to understand the shape of what you did. I say, quote, he breathes out. He isn't used to me talking in straight lines, perhaps. He was the architect. I was the electrician. One built walls. One kept the lights. She begged me, he says. Quote, we sit with that. The words are a small knife. Quote, he looks at the balcony. The city is gray and generous. Cars move like thoughts you can't quite grab. I was protecting her, he says, lower now. From what? I ask. From being in a room with the person who fed and raised her. I answer myself. He rubs his neck again. Quote, he raises his eyebrows, the old negotiation posture. I'm not suing anyone, I say. Relief flashes too quickly. But I'm filing a report about the unauthorized access. I continue. The relief retracts, not drama, documentation. I'm also asking for a public correction, I say. He frowns. On the event page, I add, quote, he half smiles like a man humoring a child in a hardware store. No, I say, calm, tightening like a zipper. Quote, he considers his apples again. You think that matters, he says. Quote, I think truth matters, I say. Quote, he is quiet. Quote, I want her to call me, I say. Quote, he nods like he's signing a delivery. Anything about the money, he adds, cautious. The deposit, I say. Quote, he waits. I'm not asking for it back, I say. He exhales. I let him have it. Consider it tuition, I say. Quote, he winces. A small, right-sized pain. I'll talk to her, he says. Quote, of course, I say. Quote, he almost laughs, then thinks better. The apartment's oven clock blinks 12 o'clock, either from a power outage or neglect. It has been blinking for who knows how long. I'm leaving, I say. He nods. Quote, I stand. He doesn't walk me to the door. A man who wants to show his spine, but not his manners. I let myself out. In the hall, the smell of garlic has softened. An elevator dings. I take the stairs. The stairwell is concrete and echo and honest. Outside, the rain is busy but not angry. People move beneath umbrellas like mobile planets. I walk 2 blocks to a coffee shop because the banker in me believes in paper trails, and the mother in me needs a witness who doesn't love anyone in this story. I order a small drip. 25 before tax. The receipt prints with the exact time, a tiny proof that I was somewhere attentive to my life. I sit by the window. I open my notebook. New boxes. Quote, I drink the coffee too fast and it scalds a path down my throat. Pain is a kind of map. My phone buzzes. An email, quote, I forward it to the folder I made, receipts. I write a sentence at the top of a fresh page, quote, I underline it twice, each stroke a tiny plank of a bridge I'm building back to myself. A couple near me laughs at something on a screen. Their joy is not a theft. It's just weather I don't live in today. I walk to the library next. The air there is cool and hums with concentration. I take a seat in the public computer row. I log into the event page. The pastel banners feel like a dare. I write a comment beneath a photo of a cake. Correction, I did not decline my daughter's wedding. My email and RSVP were used without my consent. I wish the couple love. Quote, I read it twice. It is not heat. It is clarity. I press post. The button goes gray. The words go up into that little square world, and I breathe. A librarian shushes someone across the room. I whisper, sorry, even though I haven't made a sound. My phone lights. He has written a single line, quote, no apology. Not yet. That is not my job to extract. I log off. I step back into the wet afternoon with a copy of My Own Courage in my pocket. At the corner, the light takes its time. I let it. By the time I get home, my sister has left soup on the stove and a note on the notebook. Proud of you, she wrote, the kind of receipt you can't photograph, but you can keep. The house welcomes me with its mild squeaks and the faithful plant stretching toward the dim. I put the shawl in a box, not as banishment, as an archive. I label it. I sit at the table and listen to the kettle remember heat. My phone buzzes again. A new notification. Not a photo. A tag. Her father's comment sits under mine, factual and spare. Then a note from her. I'm calling at 8, she writes. I'll listen first. I reply. Outside, the rain eases to mist. I set the phone on the table and let it ring twice so my heart can catch up. Then I answer. Hi, she says, small and bright, the voice that used to ask for the purple cup. Hi, I say, and leave the rest of the words folded. We breathe at each other for a moment. I saw your comment. She starts. I know, I answer. It was a lot, she says. So was a wedding, I say. Silence again, this time shaped like a hallway we're both afraid to walk. I didn't want to hurt you, she says. I believe you didn't want to watch it. I say, quote, she exhales, a tiny surrender. Dad thought. I know what he thought. I say, gentle, as if moving a sleeping child from couch to bed. Quote, she clears her throat. I didn't know how to handle you, she says. The sentence lands wrong in my ribs. Handle. Like a suitcase. Like a spill. Then say that, I reply. Quote, she bristles. I can hear it in the way her breath changes shape. I wanted small, she says. Quote, you could have had all those things, I say. Quote, your presence is loud, she says, and the words are not meant to be cruel, just lazily precise. My presence is full, I correct. Quote, she snorts a laugh, then clamps it down, ashamed. I'm trying, she says. I am too, I answer. Quote, she says okay in that way people say okay when they mean please be brief. You used my email, I say. Quote, I'm sorry, she says, so fast the apology skids. What are you sorry for? I ask. It's not a trap. It is a lesson plan for how it made you feel, she says. No, I answer. Quote, for making you look bad, she offers. Younger now. Quote, she's quiet. I can hear her pick at a nail, the small rasp like a cricket. For taking your choice away, she says, slow, almost surprised at the accuracy. Yes, I say. Quote, she breathes like someone who just aligned a picture frame on a wall. I told him to write the comment, she says, rushing to give me the receipts I didn't ask for. I know, I say. Quote, I need you to write yours. I add. Quote, she hesitates. Public, she says, testing the consequences. Public. I confirm. Quote, she lets out a soft, almost amused sound, the noise we make when poetry arrives where we expected a bill. Mom, she says, and the word is old and new at once. We sit with it, the way you sit with a song that's been remixed. Will you be mad if I tell you something petty? She asks. I will be human, I say. The shawl looked better on you, she blurts, and we both choke on a laugh that is part grief. I picture the cream dress, the rain, the shawl that knew my hands first. Petty is just pain in costume, I say. Quote, she inhales. I was scared, she admits. Quote, the history is part of the story, I reply. Quote, She is quiet. I can almost feel her nod. Dad said you'd cry, she says. I might have, I answer. Quote, the line hums. She sniffs. There it is. Not the scene change. I don't know how to fix it. She whispers. We don't, I say. Single quote. I can write the sentence, she says. Good, I say. Quote, a ping interrupts us. Another notification. I tilt the phone away. Is that him? She asks. Meaning her father? Probably. I say, quote, she makes a noise that contains several years of our life. He likes a clipboard, she says. He always did, I answer. We both breathe a small laugh that, if you squint, could look like mercy. A fresh courage arrives. She speaks before it has time to decide against her. Do you want to know why we did it fast? She asks. I already know, I say. Quote, she sucks in air. I have hit the soft. Quote, that's not how faces work, I say. Quote, another silence, this one gentle. Are you going to disown me? She asks, mortified by how child the question sounds. I would have had to own you first, I answer softly. Quote, her exhale is a broken ribbon. I'm going to make a list, she says suddenly, almost embarrassed. Good, I say, smiling at the lineage. Quote, she hums a yes. And add, bring the shawl by, I say, then stop. Quote, she cries then, not ugly, not loud, just water finding the path it always intended. I'm sorry, she says again, a better shape this time. I'm going to need time, I reply. Time is honest, she says, and I can hear my voice in her mouth. I'll post the sentence, she adds. Quote, thank you, I say, not for the sentence, for the muscle she's growing. There's a rustle on her end, a door opening, footsteps. Quote, she covers the speaker. I'm on with my mom, she whispers, protective. A small thing, a new thing. She comes back to me. I have to go, she says. I know, I reply. Quote, we linger the way people linger near a warm building on a cold route. I love you, she says, and it lands with weight. I love you, I say back, because that is still a true thing. We end the call like taking off a bandage that's been softened by saline. The house is very quiet. The kettle's metal heart ticks as it remembers heat. I open the notebook. I check one box. Public correction. I write a small check beside it, then wait before filling it in. A new ping. I look. Her sentence sits beneath mine. Correction. My mother did not decline our wedding. We made that choice without her consent. Quote, simple, exact. No excuses. I underline the box, a satisfying line that feels like a floor. I let the relief be small so it can be real. The night hovers, rain or no rain, I can't tell. The plant on the sill has turned its face toward where it thinks the moon is. I wash my cup. I set it upside down to dry. I turn off the kitchen light. In the doorway, I stop. I can feel it, the part of me that used to sprint rising to run again. I ask it to walk. Tomorrow will ask for a different pace. The morning after the sentence goes live, the air feels clearer and slightly dangerous, like a room just after someone has told the truth. I move through the house slowly. I open curtains. I write a picture frame that has been crooked since last spring. I eat toast with honey and watch sunlight find the floorboards it lost to rain. My phone, you didn't have to embarrass her, it says. No name, no context. I file it in the folder marked receipts and go on with my morning like a person who can carry two truths. I call the lawyer at 9. A woman named Alvarez answers with a voice like an even street. I tell her the situation the way I would tell a nurse where it hurts, just the facts and the pain they carry. She asks sharp questions that feel like being measured for a suit. Quote, she hums approval. We'll document, she says. Quote, legal language becomes a terrace I can stand on. She tells me what the law calls things: misrepresentation, unauthorized access of protected account. Emotional distress is real but unbillable. I take notes. I write in my careful square ticks. When we hang up, she emails me a form with a clean subject line. Quote, I sign it digitally. I pay a retainer that makes my heartbeat notice, but not panic. $350 to say I am not a rumor. After, I walk to the market for apples and flour. The sun has torn the clouds open, and everything is the color of rinsed stone. A woman from down the block stops me near the egg aisle. She nods toward my phone, which is in my pocket, heavy as a small book. I saw, she says, without specifying what. Her voice is a knuckle on the door of my day. Quote, clarity likes company. We part with a shared silence that feels like a handshake. At home, the inbox has doubled. Her sentence gathered gravity as the day went on. Some strangers are tender. Some are performative. Some are cruel in the practiced way of people who think life is a sport and the points are public. I do not respond. I am not a town square. I am a woman in a kitchen making an apple galette because butter and flour understand transformation without words. The peeler sings its little silver song. The dough comes together with patience and cold. The phone rings while the crust is resting. Her father. Of course, I let it go to voicemail because I am learning that interruptions are negotiations disguised as rings. He texts instead. Quote, I do not. I align my breath with the slow exhale of the oven. At 2, a call comes from a number I recognize as the conservatory. I brace for paperwork, for more polite facts. Instead, a strained voice. We've had to disable comments, she says. Quote, I almost laugh. Of course they are. Truth wakes the birds. Thank you for telling me, I answer. We will keep our statement up, she adds, cautious. Quote, I think of the boutique. I think of the shawl. I think of faith as something you do with your hands, not a concept you store on a shelf. After we hang up, a new email arrives. Cease all defamation, the subject line says in a font that takes itself seriously. From the fiancé's mother, a woman in the photos with my shawl on her shoulders and a smile that looked like the middle of a thought. She writes that I am slandering her family. Quote, I am not surprised, but the word tantrum is a small sting I did not expect. Quote, I add the message to receipts. I stand at the sink and chew on the inside of my cheek like the memory of a bad habit. My phone buzzes again. This time it is a family group chat that has lain dormant since someone's birthday in May. It erupts like a shaken soda. Quote, my youngest sends only a heart and then a photo of our pothos stretching toward the light. Bless her. My mother, who texts like she writes postcards, sends, I love you. Quote, she adds a cookie emoji because she knows what ovens are for. Quote, then I mute the thread and return to the galette. It comes out of the oven the color of intentions fulfilled. I eat a piece while it is too hot and burn my tongue slightly. Pain, map. A knock at my door startles me so much I almost drop the plate. I look through the peephole and see her. My daughter. No umbrella. Hair damp at the edges like she ran through a mist. I exhale and open the door before I can revise. We stand close enough to smell the rain on each other. She holds a small box, the dress box from the boutique, cream cardboard with a ribbon-like restraint. I came to bring this, she says, lifting it halfway as if to ask permission to make the offering. What is it? I ask. Though I know, she swallows. The shawl, she says. I look at her hands. They are not shaking, but they are not steady. I thought, she starts and stops. Quote, I step back to invite her in. She hesitates, reading a room that knows her footsteps like a prayer. She enters, and her presence shifts the house back into the scale it remembers. I put the box on the table. We sit. The galette steams on a plate between us. Do you want a slice? I ask, because you must honor bodies before you judge souls. She nods. She eats with the careful greed of someone who didn't think the offer would be made. Dad's losing it, she says, half apologetic. I know, I say. Quote, she almost smiles. Quote, I tilt my head. Standing on the ground I already owned is not escalation, I say. Announcing that the ground exists is not a flare gun, I add. She exhales through her nose, humbled by the mathematics of that. I'm meeting with Alvarez, I say. Quote, I watch her face move through fear to understanding. That's fair, she says. Her phone pulses, face down on the table like good manners. Unknown numbers are hunting her too. She reaches into her bag and pulls out a folded sheet of paper. My sentence, she says, quote, I unfold it. The same words from the internet, but in her script, which has matured from bubbles to slant. It looks like learning. I put it beneath a magnet on the fridge. We watch it hold. She wipes her fingers with a dish towel, then looks at the box. Will you open it? She asks. Not today, I say, and her shoulders drop in a way that tells me she wanted this boundary as much as I did. We hear footsteps on the stairs, more than one. My sister's voice, then another voice that makes the house stiffen, the fiancé's mother. Of course, they gather in doorways like weather fronts. My sister hovers, ready to translate if needed. The other woman steps in as if she were invited. She wears a coat that looks like a decision. She does not make eye contact. She makes statements. We have spoken to an attorney, she says. Quote, the word unseemly is a time machine. I am 15 again, with a hemline being measured to the inch by a woman who didn't ask how I felt in the dress. I breathe once, twice. I stated a fact. I say. She blinks like I spoke a language her lips know, but her ears refuse. She looks at my daughter. You're letting this happen, she says in the voice people use in museums when a child touches glass. She's telling the truth, my daughter replies. Calm, clear. A boundary you can see from the street. The woman reels slightly, as if the room turned a corner without her. We can take this offline, she says to me, as if my kitchen is the internet and not the inside of my own life. We are offline, I answer. Quote, she blinks again, not ready for hospitality to be a shield. No, she says, and suddenly looks tired of her own certainty. My sister steps forward with a grace I've seen only at baptisms and funerals. Ma'am, she says, gentle and firm. Quote, the woman lowers her voice and raises her chin. I came for the shawl, she says. Of course you did, I say, and even I can hear the smile at the edge of my mouth. The shawl is staying here, I add. Quote, she bristles. It was given, she says. It was not, I reply. Quote, my daughter speaks before I can decide how to soften it. It's mine, she says. Quote, the woman's composure cracks, not loudly, more like tile that has been stepped on for years, finally admitting its fracture. She looks at me, and for the first time I see a sliver of the frightened girl inside her. I didn't mean, she starts, and then stops. Neither did I answer, and the truce is small but present. She smooths her coat. She nods to my sister, who nods back like a referee who did not blow a whistle because the play corrected itself. They leave. The door closes with a click that sounds more like a word than a sound. My daughter and I sit with the quiet they leave behind. We cut another slice of galette and split it with a fork we share. It is both intimate and ordinary. The best kinds of repair are. On the fridge, her sentence looks back at us like a promise written in pencil. Light, but real. I watch. She laughs, a small bell. She remembers the box we didn't check. We'll check it, she says. I watch her walk down the steps, and for the first time in days, my shoulders lower from around my ears. The house exhales with me. I return to the table. The box with the shawl waits. The galette has cooled to the temperature of patience. My notebook is open to a page that now has more check marks than empty boxes. I add one more line. Quote, I underline it. Twice, the light outside tilts, softer now, as if the day wants to be kind before it leaves. And as the sun finds the edge of the shawl box and warms it like a hand, I feel the first real looseness at the center of the knot. which is the moment I know the next step won't be about them at all, but about the way I choose my own name when no one is listening. The day slips forward like a slow river, not fast, not stuck, just moving in a direction I can finally name. I make a pot of soup because simmering is a verb that teaches patience to water. The house smells like time and the memory of every winter that didn't win. On the table, my notebook waits with its boxes. I don't touch it yet. I lace my shoes and step outside. The rain has gone to ground. Puddles hold the sky in small, generous fountain pearls in the center, as if whispering a secret you can only hear if you stop needing to. I walk past a sign that says, "Please do not touch the cacti," which makes me laugh because, of course, we still try. A corner holds a bench beneath a bougainvillea that is trying very hard to be a sky. I sit. I let the humidity curl the edges of my hair. A groundskeeper moves past, pushing a cart with the careful solemnity of someone transporting a sleeping child. He catches my eye and nods, the nod of a person who has clocked grief before and knows not to fetch a towel unless asked. On the wall is a small plaque about longevity. It says, "Some of the cycads here are older than our country and will outlast our quarrels." It says, "Humans measure time with appointments and photos. Plants use light." I take that 2 sentences that taste like medicine and honey. I pull out my phone and open a blank note. Quote, I underline nothing. I save it for me. The groundskeeper passes again. He stops this time and adjusts a stake, holding up a slender trunk that insists on growing crooked. Sometimes they lean toward what hurt them, he says, eyes on his work. Quote, I don't ask if he's talking about plants. We share a small smile meant for people who try. He moves on. I sit another minute, 2. I stand. On my way out, I stop at the front desk. I thank the woman for keeping a place where people can learn how to breathe. She looks startled and then relieved, like I absolved her of selling tickets to the weather. Back outside, the air has the soft edges of an apology. I walk by the bakery where we used to share a croissant and choose not to go in. I am not avoiding memory. I am choosing a different sugar. At home, the soup has found its voice. I turn the burner low. I slice bread and let the crumbs make their little geography on the cutting board. I sit at the table with a notebook. Quote, I add a new box. Quote, it feels both silly and holy. Quote, I do not have a garden, but I have a window and a pot and a packet of basil that I first bought last spring and forgot to begin. I press seeds into soil with a fingertip. I cover them like secrets I intend to keep. The plant on the sill, faithful pothos, watches without judgment. I open my laptop and move through every account like a person who knows her own doors. passwords become poems only I can recite. I leave a list in my desk for my sister because being safe doesn't have to be secret. An email arrives from Alvarez, short, precise, letters sent. Quote, I read the letterhead with my name on it and feel the strange, neat power of being seen in a font that carries consequence. I reply with a thank you and a question about what to expect next. She answers in minutes. Pushback, she writes, quote, or not, she adds, quote, I close the laptop. The house seems to have unknotted a rope. My phone buzzes with a message from my youngest, a picture of a thrift store mug with a chipped lip. World's okayest mom, it says. She found another one, quote, I laugh. It feels like stretching after a nap that remembered what sleep is for. I pull down a box from the closet, not the shawl. A different one. Old photos and school crafts, paper turkeys, and a science fair ribbon for a poster about clouds. I lay a few out on the table like tarot. There is a picture of us at the zoo in January. We are pink-cheeked and ridiculous. She is wearing a hat that looks like a strawberry. The caption could be anything. It is, instead, just a face tilted toward a woman who would carry her across a decade without regret. I do not cry. I do not harden. I mark the tenderness and refuse to interpret it as a mistake. The doorbell rings at an hour when it could be a delivery or a neighbor or a test. I look through the peephole and see a woman from the building. After she leaves, I sit again with the box of photos. I pick up a pen. I write dates on the backs where I can remember them. I write Maple Row Conservatory, Public Day on a small scrap and put it under the magnet with my daughter's sentence, as if pinning today to a line I can follow back to myself. I let myself articulate the thing I've been circling, not for a post, for a pulse. Quote, out loud, it sounds like admission. On paper, it looks like freedom written small so it can fit in a pocket. I make tea. I don't wait for the kettle to whistle this time. I pour before it shouts. I carry my cup to the window and watch the basil pot like a metaphor I'm not allowed to overuse. No sprouts, of course, just dark soil and the faith of what is buried. I think about forgiveness as not a performance but a posture. I stand a little taller. I lower my shoulders. Here is the explicit part, as if labeling a shelf. Forgiveness is not an eraser. It is a boundary with a door you can open from your side. It is the soft, firm choice to stop rehearsing a hurt and start remembering your own name. I breathe, and the breath goes all the way down for the first time in days. The phone rings, not a number I know. I let it pass. I am busy visiting my life. I put away the photos. I leave the strawberry hat one out. I write Sunday on the calendar with a small heart that is informational, not decorative. Dinner is happening. We will talk about expectations. We will not put them in a drawer again. In the late afternoon, I walk the stairs instead of taking the elevator. My calves complain. I like being answered. In the laundry room, I pin a note to the community board. Free basil seedlings in a few weeks. It says, quote, I draw a little leaf that looks like a heart if you know how to squint. Back upstairs, I take the shawl box down. I sit with it on my lap and feel the weight of fiber and time. I do not open it. I write on the lid in pencil so it can change. Quote, I put it back on the shelf where the house's heart beats slow. Dusk takes the edges off. The soup becomes dinner with buttered bread and a slice of neighbor's cinnamon something. I wash dishes and listen to the clink like a language I never bothered to learn because it never raised its voice. When the kitchen is orderly again, I take the notebook and write one more line. Quote, I draw the box next to it. I leave it unchecked. It's not homework. It's a way of standing. Night arrives with the soft authority of someone who has done this before. I turn off lights, and the dark answers in a tone I recognize. I climb into bed and let the sheet take my weight. I look at the ceiling, and for the first time in too long, I don't rewrite a scene. I write a promise, small, present tense, quote, not on the internet, not in someone else's expectation. Here, in this body that learned to lift and lower. In this house that remembers my feet, in this name that did not decline, and tomorrow I will make room for the reflection that comes after you've chosen the shore you stand on. Morning opens like a page turned without drama, soft light on the counter. A delicate seam of bird noise between buildings. I wake before the alarm, not from vigilance, but from habit letting go. The basil pot sits on the sill, the soil a dark, honest quiet, no sprouts yet. Faith doesn't sprint. It arrives like steam. I pad into the kitchen barefoot. The tile doesn't flinch. I grind coffee and think about the word ordinary, like a bead I want to warm with my hands. Ordinary used to feel like something I had to earn after a crisis. Now on the fridge, the sentence my daughter wrote has flattened under the magnet and become part of the house's grammar. Quote, 3 stones laid into a path you can walk on. I make toast. Honey, not jam. I sit and open the notebook because ritual is a kind of spine. The boxes are mostly checked. The unchecked ones are not failures. They are invitations. Quote, next to it, I pencil a small leaf like the basil will make if it decides to. I write a line below it, the truth that has been stretching in me like a cat in a sun patch. Quote, I dot the I, and the dot lands steady. The phone stays face down and blessedly quiet. Somewhere out there, other people are pacing rooms they paid for, making decisions about who they will be today on screens, in kitchens, in the backs of their own lives. I wish them clarity. I do not wish them my pain. I wish them the part that came after. I go to the window and see a scrap of brightness caught on a fire escape across the alley. Laundry. A shirt with a stain, a towel with a fringe of threads, a dress breathing in small exhales. We are all doing our best with soap and sun. The doorbell rings. Not a test this time. A promise. My daughter, right on the time we said. Sunday dinner is the smallest sacrament. She holds a bag of lemons and parsley like a bouquet that knows how to cook. Her hair is pinned up in a quick knot, damp at the nape. No script in her eyes. We move around each other without choreography, and nothing collides. I posted a sentence on my page too, she says, almost offhand, which is the bravest way to tell the truth. Good, I say. She nods. No gold star needed, no parade, just the relief that comes when what you carry is finally named its weight. Dad texted me, she adds, after a minute, quote, I keep my hands moving. I have learned that pause is a power tool. Do you want that? I ask. Not right now, she says, surprising both of us with the muscle of her own no. Okay, I say, and mean it. We talk about garlic prices and bus routes, and the pothole on Maple that finally got filled. We talk about a book she left open on the back of a chair and meant to finish. We keep the conversation on the ground we can both stand on. Later, at the table, we eat pasta that tastes like someone remembered to salt the water. We pass the bowl. We pass the pepper. We do not pass the past. It sits in the next room like a relative who came early and will leave late. We nod to it when we our glasses. After dishes, her washing, me drying, we sit on the couch with the window open to a rectangle of breath. She looks at the box on the shelf. I was thinking about vows, she says suddenly. I tilt my head. How they're really just promises you make to the part of yourself that is about to be tested, she continues. Quote, she looks at me, steady. Quote, the room holds those words like a bowl. They don't slosh. They sit. I receive that, I say, and feel the ceremony in my chest click into place like a loose cabinet finally level. We sit in the soft. We do not catalog the wrongs. We do not pretend the ledger doesn't exist. We let it rest where ledgers belong, in a drawer labeled math that is not the only drawer in the house. Before she leaves, she stands at the window and points. Is that a sprout? She asks. We bend together the way you do at a baby's crib, expectant and already in love. Nothing yet, just earth. But the soil has shifted a whisper. Sometimes healing looks like nothing until the second you name it. Soon, I say. Soon, she echoes, trusting me alongside her own eyes. She hugs me at the door. Not a clinging, a press, a living thing letting. I clean the counter because I love the way a cloth makes effort visible. I sit with my tea. I open the folder named Receipts and rename it. Records, I type. Receipts prove you spent something. Records remember what was worth the cost. I glance at the note I wrote at the conservatory. Quote, I add one more to myself. Quote, I close the file and feel taller by a fraction. The phone buzzes. A message from Alvarez. One of the letters was acknowledged. She writes, quote, "Good." I text back. She replies with a final line that belongs on a fridge. "Remember," she writes, quote, "I look at the basil pot again. Still soil. Still promise." I flip my notebook to a blank page and write a paragraph that belongs to all of us who have ever been erased and then penciled ourselves back in. It is not advice. It is a map drawn from where I stand. When someone uses your voice to say you refused love, don't spend your life auditioning to get it back. Change the locks. Change the password. Change the story you tell yourself about what you deserve. Make a meal. Make a folder. Make a sentence that announces you exist. Ask for correction without demanding contrition. Let the apology, if it comes, sit beside the soup instead of inside your veins. Plant something. Quote, I put my pen down. I put my hand on my chest. There it is, the quiet proof that I made it here. Not tidy, not triumphant in a movie way, just here. Feet on my own floor, name in my own mouth, love in a shape I can carry without dropping myself. Outside, the evening begins to turn the buildings into cardboard cutouts against a kinder sky. A neighbor laughs down the hall, and the sound travels like good gossip. I make my bed with fresh sheets because restful is not a prize, it is a practice. Before the light leaves, I take one last small step. I open my email. I write a note to my sister. Quote, she replies with a heart and a photo of her dog asleep like an elderly croissant. I smile. I turn off the lamp. In the dark, I can hear the tiny metronome of the kettle cooling, the house's metal organs settling into night. My last thought is not a replay. It is a horizon, a sentence I will wake to and try on like a sweater. Quote, and tomorrow, because this is how arc becomes life, I will keep that softness, even when truth asks me to speak in a clear voice. The week folds into itself like clean laundry. No headlines, no declarations, just days with edges I can finally touch. I wake to a small, real thing, a green loop in the basil pot, shy as a question mark. It's nothing like a trumpet. It's a whisper that has decided to be visible. Quote, I make coffee with a steady hand. I check the fridge and the sentence is still there, ordinary now, like the grocery list it shares a magnet with. How good it is when truth becomes part of the kitchen. The inbox is quiet in the way a lake is quiet, alive under the surface. A note from Alvarez, brief, quote, I reply with 2 words I used to save for doctors. Quote, I spend the morning doing things that take no courage and still count. I sew a button back on a cardigan I almost threw away. I scrub the sink until it remembers shine. I return a library book one day early. On the walk home, I see the conservatory's glass rise above the trees like a ship that never leaves port. I don't go in. I don't need to today. I already know what grows under a roof you choose. At the corner, the crossing signal blinks its white permission. I cross slowly because I can. Halfway, I remember the years of hurried groceries between shifts, of pulling dinners out of thin air and coupons. I bless that woman and let her sit down in my memory. She does not have to keep standing to earn her rest. Back home, I open the box with photos again and tuck two into frames that have been a picture of the pothos new leaf unfurling like a slow yes. Quote, proof. Receipts turn to records, turn to proof of life. A text from my sister arrives just after dinner next week. Quote, I answer, yes. Quote, she sends 3 laughing faces and a heart that looks like a potato. The door knocks, gentle. The neighbor from the cinnamon basket stands there with an empty bowl in her hands and gratitude in her face. We trade back without ceremony. Quote, we stand in the hallway a moment longer than a transaction requires. We are practicing being people in an age that wants us to be posts. After lunch, I take a bus to the boring places. Bank, post office, a small shop that fixes phone screens and sells braided charging cables in primary colors. I like the way errands collapse a day into tasks that finish. The bank clerk asks if I want to add a trusted contact. I give my sister's name. He says, peace of mind, like handing me a receipt. I let the phrase be true without interrogation. On the ride back, a man argues with his seat about nothing in particular. No one engages. No one humiliates him. We all practice the art of letting a storm pass without narrating it. It feels like mercy at scale. The bus trundles past the building where my ex keeps his neat condo. I say a larger wish for my daughter's shoulders, that they hold what's hers and no one else's. Back home, I open my notebook. Slow. There is 1 box left without a check. Quote, I look at it and feel how easy it would be to rush toward it, to slap a check mark on the square like a bandage on a wound I'm tired of noticing. I put the pen down. Peace is not a trick. Peace is posture, not product. Some days it is a palm up waiting. Some days it is a palm out stop. Today it is both. I tear out a page and write 3 letters, not to be mailed, to be read aloud to the air that has held both my crying and my sleep. Dear daughter, I will not grade your healing. I will not audit your joy. I will sit on the porch with a light on and a chair ready, and when you come, we will talk about parsley and bus schedules until the big things fit back into our mouths. Dear self, you are allowed to be remembered by your own body. Let your shoulders lower when they want to. Let your hands rest even if the dishes are not done. The world will not end. If it does, you will still be ready to love someone. Dear world, I cannot make you behave, but I will not teach you by my silence how to erase me. I will not shrink to fit your story when my name belongs in full on the page I wake to. I fold the letters and put them in the box with the shawl. For when we know what story it tells, I wrote, maybe it tells the story of returning things to their right owners. Maybe it tells the story of not taking on what never was mine. The phone buzzes at 4. A picture from my daughter, a small purple cup on a counter. Quote, I laugh, and the laugh shakes a last stubborn stone loose inside me. Clean, quiet space where regret used to rehearse. Evening thins itself across the window. The basil lifts another green question mark. A pear. I cut an apple and eat it over the sink like my mother did when time was short and care was not. Juice runs down my wrist. I catch it with the back of my hand and lick it away. Sweet, ridiculous, real. I pull the magnet off the fridge and straighten the paper beneath. Not because it needed it, because I know how easily words tilt. I walk the rooms and place a fingertip on thresholds, saying hello to the parts of the house that carry us without fanfare. When the kettle clicks, it doesn't startle me. I pour water before it can call for attention, learning finally to interrupt my own alarms before they take over, not to haunt a past I missed. To honor a present I choose, I will go and sit under the bougainvillea trying to be a sky, and I will watch couples pose without wanting to edit the palette. I will thank the groundskeeper with my eyes. I will lay a hand near, not on, the cactus, and remember how I once went about this life, touching everything that could hurt me and calling it brave. In the mirror, my face looks like mine again, not victorious, not particularly interesting to a camera, but soft in the places that had gone armored and firm in the places that used to give on command. I run a comb through my hair and the strands behave not like soldiers, but like a field in a breeze. At the table, I open my notebook one last time. I don't check the box. I draw a small wave beside it, a reminder. Peace, like shore, it is about a green loop inventing itself under my roof without asking permission. I smile into the dark because I understand something simple now. We are not required to explain every sprout. We are invited to water what is true and let it grow. And tomorrow, when light touches that little question mark again, I will say the answer out loud, my name, clear and whole, and walk into the day I chose. A week later, the basil is no longer a question mark. It has become a sentence, green and declarative. I pinch 2 leaves and rub them between my fingers. The smell is every kitchen I have ever loved. I lay the leaves on a paper towel like tiny flags that don't need a country. The house is quiet, but not the kind that searches for alarms. It's the quiet of a room that trusts the door. On the fridge, I take the long way to the park, past the bus stop, where a boy practices a skateboard trick that keeps rejecting him. He tries again. Again, the board claps the pavement, and the sound carries a courage I recognize. At the corner, an older woman pulls a rolling bag that squeaks once per step. We exchange the kind of smile neighbors give one another when the weather is fair and nothing needs fixing. An ambulance passes without its siren, lights quietly insisting, somebody else's urgent, not mine. At the park, the pond hosts a committee of ducks with opinions. A child throws bread. A parent apologizes to a sign. The sky is a generous gray that remembers how to be blue if asked nicely. Quote, the words don't ache. They invite. I take out my notebook, not the ledger of boxes, a clean one with a cover the color of late peaches. I write a title at the top of the first page, quote, I list them like stepping stones across water I used to fear. If I am erased, I will write my name in my own hand. If I am borrowed without asking, I will change the locks and not apologize for doing so. If I am accused of drama for telling the truth, I will let the truth stand without costumes. If I am invited, I will check what is being asked of me and accept only what doesn't require me to disappear. If I am not invited, I will bless my evening and cook what makes the house smell like a home. If I am loved, I will practice receiving without recording the ledger out loud. If I am not loved well, I will practice leaving without setting the whole building on fire. Words simple enough to memorize, strong enough to hold. A breeze lifts the page. I press it down with my palm and feel the pulse, that mother of 5, keeper of soup and passwords, and the tone of a house. I breathe, long in, long out. A dragonfly stitches the air in front of me. Thread, thread, thread. When I was younger, I mistook endurance for love. I held my breath in rooms that forgot to ask me to inhale. I thought disappearing made me generous. Now I know better. Now I know that generosity without selfhood is just a neat magic trick that ends in loss. I am not a trick. I am not even a lesson, though I have learned some. I am a person, capable of being wrong and making it right, capable of being right and staying kind, capable of not attending a thing that was designed to excuse my absence, capable of attending my own life with all the lights on. I stand and walk to the conservatory because it is public. I pass the cacti like old colleagues and keep my hands to myself. Near the fountain, a couple is practicing their wedding poses, coached by a friend with a camera and too much enthusiasm. Chin up, the friend says. Quote, they are, whether they know it or not, rehearsing for the part that comes after the photos, when the instructions are not about angles, but about ordinary. I do not need to be the voice in their scene. I become the witness I wish I'd had. I wish them whether they can survive together. I wish them a world where corrections are not shame, just maintenance. I sit on the same bench as before and look up. Glass, then sky. 2 roofs, 1 decided on, 1 given. I open the peach-colored notebook again and add 1 more agreement. I will not treat my peace as contraband. I will carry it openly, like a bag of lemons for a dinner I'm planning, like a sprig of basil I'll tear with my fingers and share. On my way out, I catch the groundskeeper's eye. He nods at a young tree staked in 2 directions. Balance now, he says. I nod back. It's a sentence about a trunk. It's a sentence about me. On the sidewalk, the city has decided to be generous. A breeze, a bus that arrives when the schedule said it might. A stranger offering me a seat, though I don't need it. I accept anyway, because accepting from strangers is a small way of remembering I'm part of a body larger than my own. The ride hums, someone laughs. Someone coughs into their elbow, politely. A kid in the front shows his mother a drawing, a house with a big square window and a stick figure smiling inside. I don't look for myself in that square. I sit in my own square. At home, I put basil leaves on warm tomatoes and taste summer in a mouth that isn't rehearsing for court anymore. I water the pot and a little spills on the sill. I wipe it with a dish towel that has known both tears and I heart it. She hearts my heart. We are inventing a method. It looks like Sunday dinner and small sentences and the discipline of not narrating other people's insides. It looks like 1 box we finally checked together. Talk about expectations. At dusk, I walk the hallway and notice how the building sings to itself. Pipes, distant televisions, a dog negotiating with the day's last light. Quote, in my kitchen, I wash the 1 plate and 1 fork I used. I move the backup mug to the front of the shelf because backups deserve their day. I look at the correction 1 more time. I don't need to. I want to. Wanting is a welcome guest. I turn off lights. In the dark, I sit on the edge of the bed and put my feet on the floor. The old habit used to be inventory. Now it is gratitude that's precise. Thank you for the basil, for the lawyer's steady emails, for my sister's cornbread and potato heart emoji, for the neighbor's cinnamon and the porch light sentence that lives in my daughter's mouth now. For my own no, which turned out to be a door that opens to a room I can rest in. For the part of me that stayed soft even when asked to harden. I lie down. The sheet smooths itself like a hand. The house holds me. The night does its work. You are not the RSVP they put in your mouth. You are not the erased caption, the untagged face. You are not the scene they feared and rehearsed without you. You are the invitation to your own life. You are the host. You are the person who changes the passwords and the story. You are the proof that ordinary is not small. It is sacred. I breathe, no glitch, no catch, just a long exhale I can stand inside. And as sleep starts its slow braid, I hear tomorrow at the door knocking softly, like someone who has learned how to arrive without taking anything. I smile. Come in, I say, in the simplest, truest voice I own, and I let the world be here with me as I am.